This is the network service of the NTA.
Several governments have attempted to improve not just the number of houses available for Nigerians in the country, they have also attempted to improve the quality of the houses that we live in. But as we speak, Nigeria has a deficit of 17 million housing units. That means that not everyone may be living comfortably. But in our research gathering in the week just gone past, we've spoken with diverse groups of people. And what many say is, cut your coat according to your cloth. In spite of that fact, some people may not be able to make ends meet in the regard of getting houses that will suit their needs. If we're talking about 17 million deficit of houses, that means a lot of people may not even have a roof over their heads. That has informed the topic of Weekend Deal today. We're talking about the housing deficit in Nigeria. Many of us must have heard about low-cost housing. That will also be integral in our discussion today. We urge you to be a part of Weekend Deal. It is an interactive program. After our background, we expect communication from you from different parts of Nigeria to start to come in. And then the conversation will actually begin. Welcome to Weekend Deal. My name is Thelma Obaza. It's great to have your company on Weekend Deal. You justify all the hard work that goes into putting this package together, just like always, getting features from all over the nation. But for now, we'll start with our overview. And our chief backgroundist, Francis Ogbe, is on set, and he tells us about housing deficit in Nigeria.
One of the basic needs of mankind is housing, and it is the most important for the physical survival of man after the provision of food. Adequate housing contributes to the attainment of physical and moral health of a nation and stimulates the social stability, the work efficiency, and the development of the individuals. The rate of urbanization in Nigeria has been on the increase in the last 2 decades. Consequently, this has created severe housing challenges.
It is actually in a very deplorable condition. When we assess it and look at it, we now discover that a lot of people are being thrown out of houses for so many reasons. Inability of government to make and meet up with the constructions, the environmental challenges that even developers are finding difficult to cope with, and again, the security situations that have actually thrown people out of their homes, abroad, and have become IDPs.
Before 2000, the language is housing for all. Before 2000, housing for this, housing for that. And the Federal Housing Authority was actually driving it very well. A lot of factors, especially when we enter 1999, where everything has been politicalized. You now discover the mass housing is no longer moving at the speed at which it's supposed to go because of a lot of political factors that started playing out.
The housing deficit crisis in Nigeria has worsened in recent times, with the statistics showing a deficit of at least 17 million. In fact, there has been a steady rise in the housing deficit from 7 million in 1991 to 14 million in 2010. From the report of the World Bank in 2018, Nigeria requires about 700,000 housing units annually, spanning through a 20-year period to accommodate the rising population.
Even with the production or delivery of 700,000 housing units every year, we cannot meet up that. Government in all the policies of housing production and the attempts that have been made by the Federal Housing Authority and government in the Federal Ministry, they have never achieved 30% of what they have targeted to do.
Do we have the resources to meet up this demand? You see, the issue that we put a lot of things in writing without actually actualizing them. That's where the problem lies. Our policies are fantastic. Our idea, if you call a Nigerian to do analysis for you, he's going to do fantastic analysis. But where the problem lies is execution.
Housing deficit, when left unabated, could lead to increase in crime, outbreak of diseases, unaffordable housing prices, poor standards of living, as well as high mortgage payments.
The people who want them to have cannot afford it any longer. Let us assume they get 50,000. They come to work and go back every day, 20 days in a month, and they spend 1,000. That's 20,000 out of that 50,000. They may possibly come and eat food that may be 500 or 200 every day. Calculate it. The children go to school. Some of them may not be well. They need clothing. And yet you want them to get a house that will pay more than 50% of what they get? It's not possible.
For the fact that you didn't buy the land, automatically federal government or the FCD have played their own part by giving you the land. But based on human factor, you want to make the whole profit. What happened? You are not willing to provide the infrastructure. The only thing you need to start doing is start selling empty land. And that empty land, you didn't provide the infrastructure, you didn't build, and at the end of it all, you tell the person, okay, you are going to contribute this, you are going to, and at the end of it all, sum it up, you find out that it's not affordable again. There are too many estates up to today. They are building, but there's no infrastructure, there's no road. But they have started building. When are they going to construct road? They are going to ask people that are building to contribute money. Then you ask yourself, is it not going to equally increase the cost on the man that is buying? Is it affordable at this level? No.
Affordable housing schemes in Nigeria have been proposed several times as solution to the housing problem. In 1991, for instance, the government rolled out Housing for All by the year 2000. In 2006, government created the National Housing Policy. In 2013, the government commissioned the Nigerian Mortgage Refinancing Company with the public purpose of promoting home ownership for Nigerians.
If you are talking about mass housing, look at the man that is saying that he wants to come and apply for it, or the man that wants to start it, or the man that wants to, participate in it. You find out at the man, are you qualified for that scheme?
Government should just provide an enabling environment for developers to come up. Let land be affordable and accessible. I would like slums to be upgraded and then titles given to people that are there. Then with that one, you are going to actually reduce the deficits greatly.
Our focus on Weekend Deal today will be on housing deficit in Nigeria.
Many thanks, Francis. Always goes in depth. He always interrogates the issue and sets the tone for our conversation. And you make it interactive by sending word in. Low-cost housing has been spoken about in detail. Housing deficit, we hear about 17 million units. Nigeria is in deficit, 17 million housing units. Do you know about that? What is your opinion? How are you faring? What is your contribution to our conversation? That is what we want to find out from you. But as we continue to unravel what's happening on our package today, Julieta, I know, has been doing some research about the challenges with regard to housing and its development. Let's see that.
It was the opposite deposit of ground, but it was my first true home of my own, and I was mightily proud. A man is not a man until he has a house of his own. These are some of the words of the late South African President Nelson Mandela in his book, The Long Walk to Freedom, talking about his house in Orlando West, Soweto. International human rights law recognizes everyone's right to adequate standard of living, including housing. Despite this, more than 1 billion people are reported to be lacking adequate housing worldwide. In Nigeria, statistics show an estimated 17 to 22 million people are experiencing housing shortage, particularly in the medium and low income bracket of the society.
Most people are not even looking towards buying, they're looking towards renting because that's all they can afford. And then you find houses that people cannot afford. So you have developers who are coming in, they don't really give a hoot about the low level, medium level workers. And they build and put very expensive prices. They don't mind living in there for 2 years, 2.5 years, 3 years, until somebody comes from the diaspora to buy.
Access to affordable housing has largely remained an unfulfilled dream to the vast majority of Nigerians. Weekend Deal Cruise sought the opinion of a cross-section of Nigerians on the streets of Abuja.
I think there are no, basic scheme where the prices of these things, let's say can be paid instrumentally, like mortgage, something like that, where the average Nigerian can actually afford this thing instrumentally, at least for a while.
It's not everybody can raise money to buy a land and build it, except maybe he can get a small money and rent a house before he achieve what he is looking for.
You know the situation in this country, you understand me? So owning a house in this country is not that too easy.
It takes many years for a Nigerian civil servant to save, buy a land, lay the foundation for a house and eventually complete it.
A lot of them have lost grasp of what it used to be broke. What it used to be a civil servant at the rock bottom. They need to come down and see the realities and go visiting people's homes to see the realities on ground so that they can understand that there is a huge market there and that there is a serious need by these people or by that market or by low-income earners for a home.
Currently, only the few on the rich side of the divide are able to afford to own a house in many of the estates across Abuja.
Now, if they can get affordable building materials for people, because most of our building materials are sourced from out of the country, they are all imported, and to make them more expensive, and then it will increase the cost of construction. The government could provide financing for salary earners or for people who have good businesses that cannot afford such property so that they can gradually pay back.
A short drive out of the Abuja city center took us to Mpape. A large part of this settlement is built by individuals themselves. The houses are built together and they live without safe drinking water. Ironically, this is the type of housing most low-income earners in Nigeria can afford to build and rent.
I build my own by myself. I do that when things was easy, not now, where I do that at the time I was paying a medicine here to work for me with 300, 200 naira.
American psychologist Abraham Harold Maslow identified basic human needs as food and water, sufficient rest, clothing, and shelter. He specified housing as one of the best indicators of a person's standard of living and his or her place in the society. Like food and clothing, housing ranks first among the three basic human needs, making its availability very crucial to the welfare of every human being.
Yes, everyone deserves to live in a home. Everyone deserves to have some level of comfort after a hard, grueling day's task. You are more productive when you have a comfortable place to lay your head. But what is critical is that you must cut your coat according to your fabric. Okay? Don't look at highbrow areas where you know you are ill-financed to live in. Look around you and see what is feasible, what is possible. And that's why many are talking about alternative ways to build a home. That is where Cecil explored, looking at the designs, ingenious designs. Let's see what she thrust up.
Amanda is a level 10 civil servant and has managed to purchase a plot of land for a family of 5. But her worry is how to go about building the house. So much money is needed in building a fitting home. Her rent will be due in another 3 months. Her family may be relocating to another state soon. And then an idea strikes. Why not opt for an alternative to bricks and mortars, cabins and containers? The journey of these mobile and stylish homes starts from the ports. The goods are offloaded, and instead of discarding the containers, they are bought over by someone who has plans for them. And that means extra money for the importer. Architectural designs are made to turn these containers into homes and offices, and then construction begins. Destiny Atibi of Prefab World takes me through the process of converting an ordinary and sometimes rusty container or cabin into a comfortable housing. She says constructing these kinds of dwellings takes shorter time compared to conventional buildings, while it has the capabilities of bringing to life any building style. The cabin or container is measured to size. Steel frames set in place with bolts, doors, windows, and other openings are chiseled and installed. Because the container is metal and emits heat, it is insulated. This is one of the most important aspects of building a container home.
We have polystyrenes we use for insulations. That's for the container ones, the normal ISO shipping containers. We insulate them in such a way that it will reduce the temperature of the heat. Unlike the porter cabin, they are already factory insulated. We import them and everything has been done on them. But for the container ones, we manually modify them. We insulate them to suit purposes and make them comfortable. So to serve as same temperature with the normal block and mortar buildings.
Inside the wall, we have the water roof for the isolation. Later, I put the panel for internal. You understand?
Antonio Sanino has been working for a construction firm in Abuja for over a decade. He operates from this multiple container office complex. The architectural design here creates a 2-story building with a generous amount of spacing. He says this ground floor is achieved with 4 containers amounting to 120 square meters. The space is complete with a washroom.
Okay.
The toilet, no problem. Flushing. This material is very good because it's very neat for clean. It's very simple for maintain.
This is polyurethane panels. They are more like a sandwich panels. These panels we use for cooling. They retain heat, sound, and has the capacity of retaining fire. It's a fire resistance panel.
Okay, so this is the restroom.
Yes.
Let's have a look at what it's in.
So majorly it's like this until when we deliver, then we install the fittings. The toilet seater, the shower tray, poles, and all that.
Cabins and container houses work better if a land space is available. Now Amanda knows what to do. Have a cabin or container home designed to her taste and within her budget, constructed and installed in her land, and when she's set to move, her home goes with her.
That's interesting. When Thelma is set to move, her home will move with her. When Festus is set to move, he can move with his home. Mobile homes, exploring and exploiting alternative designs for housing. If we say there must be housing for all, then we must find ingenious and creative ways to make this possible. Many thanks, Cecil Igbeleza, for that very in-depth look at ingenious ways to get yourself a roof that will be yours. Let's have a chat with Festus Adebayo, Executive Director, Housing Development Advocacy Network. It's great to have you join us on Weekend Deal.
Thank you, madam.
Is it possible for every Nigerian to own a home?
It's possible if the government have the political will.
So why is it not happening? What are we waiting for? 60 years down the line.
It's not happening because the government doesn't have the political will.
Are we asking government to do everything?
It's not happening because majority of the people that are involved are corrupt. So corruption is affecting everything.
But what is your role? How are you able to alleviate the needs and make things a bit smoother for Nigerians who want to own homes?
Thank you. Let me firstly start by telling you why housing is very important. And that is why I'm so happy to be here when you invited me to come and talk about this subject matter. From my own understanding, there's a correlation between housing and health. A man who slept very well, who have a very conducive place to stay, you can be rest assured that you will not be going to hospital, that the one that is living in the slum, where he be infected on daily basis with anopheles, mosquitoes, and all sorts of diseases. There's a correlation between housing and productivity. When you slept well, you get to the office, you will not be yarning, you do your job the way it should be done. And that is why in a housing development advocacy network, we have in the last 15 years running the advocacy that Nigerians must be housed. According to the United Nations, what is a decent house? A decent house must be affordable. A decent house must be secured. A decent house must be able to safeguard the health of the owner and the family. So, our campaign for a better housing sector ensure Nigeria a house have been on for over 15 years. We have various programs.
How successful have you been in your campaign?
We have provided assistance so many Nigerians, over 5,000 Nigerians, to own a home. Beyond assisting them to be homeowners, we have brought the campaign, the awareness on how to own a home. We have brought awareness. I remember sometimes ago, I met some young men and I asked them, what is mortgage? None of them could provide me any answer. So, in Housing Development Advocacy Network, we have succeeded in going around with mortgage education, housing education, in enlightening Nigerians, even those people who are civil servants, who are workers, who have been contributing to National Housing Fund. We discovered that a good number of them does not even know how to access the National Housing Fund. A good number of them does not even know what is the meaning of NHM, the full meaning of NHM. These are areas
you've been able to cover that.
Have been involved. We have also been involved in exposing criminals in the sector. Those who feel they can just take the money of subscribers and run away because they know that the government is not protecting them. They know the sector is not regulated. We have succeeded in working with EFCC and some other organization that once you contributed money and you are not able to get your property as when due, we get involved. These are success stories.
It is good to know that it's not easy for you to just take the money of hard-working Nigerians and think you can just use it for your own undesirable needs. But let's talk about what is on ground now. Education is one thing. Are you taking it a step further to bridge the gap? Because when you enlighten somebody now, he now knows what to do, perhaps where to do it and how to bring it to fruition may also be a challenge. But we're talking now about ingenious ways to build. You saw that package now. People are now saying that building materials, cement is on the up and up. You know, even land is on the up and up. Mobile housing now, is it practical in Nigeria?
I've been contacted or have met people who are into that type of housing technology. I'm exposed to hydroform Technology. I can tell you I know all the technologies. And recently, just a number of a week, the Lafarge came out with 3D technology. And I think that is will be the way out than that, even that one you are mentioning. Why are the houses not affordable in Nigeria? Where are we looking for 3D technology? We are looking for 3D technology because there's the cost of the building material is increasing every day. I can report to you here that the cost of cement in Nigeria today is between 3,500 to 4,500.
I think that's why we're trying to get the mobile homes running.
I'll go there. I'll let you explain to you. So that's a big problem. From the report we have, Nigeria has the highest price of cement in the world.
In the world or the African continent?
Yes. When you compare the price of cement in Nigeria to other African countries, our prices is 40–50% higher. So what's wrong? What's wrong with us? Can't we do something? What's wrong? So this is a big threat. Another big threat to what we are discussing this morning is the issue of access to land. The state governors are the ones that are in charge of the land under the concurrent list of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So access to land is a big problem.
But you are stating problems. Solutions is our focus.
Yes, the solution forward that I want you to know is to think out of the box. When we think out of the box, you just mentioned one, the one you just mentioned now. I don't know how they are doing it. Maybe they already have a land. But even if they have a mobile house, they must have access to land. They must have building approval to the house they want to build. These are very fundamental. These are still problems we are talking about. As I think it was 2-3 years ago, we issued a statement that the state government should not be using building approval, registration of land as a source of income, as a source of revenue. The more they do that, the more it will be difficult for people. You get what I'm saying? So that is an issue you also have to look into. So if you have a technology we can use mobile, is the technology good for our climate?
Okay, but can I say something? Maybe we'll need to clarify this very well. Mobile homes, some will see it as a level of development because in the abroad, in foreign countries, people have mobile homes. Young people leave school between 18 and 30 or 35. While they get a permanent job, they have something they can afford. The word out is that a mobile home will be easier to acquire and access and be easier to manage. And while you do that, the bills are less. You can now save, hopefully, if you would like, for something more permanent.
Yes, I think we're on the same page. We are saying the same thing. Mobile house is not just going to be built on the sky.
They're not built.
It has to be assembled.
Some of them are on wheels.
It has to be assembled somewhere. It has to assemble in a place that you must get an approval. In Nigeria today, you can't just put a billboard anywhere. Somebody regulates your billboard. Even if you are selling a small product. So the person who is regulating, what is he doing to make that thing nice, conducive?
Make it
and
easier.
When I was watching your program, somebody, who is my friend, TPL at IAI, I hear him saying, creating, enabling environment. Even if we are talking of the best technology in the world, if we don't have enabling environment, there's nowhere we are going. As of today, the Ministry of Works and Housing is building houses. We are talking of mobile houses here. So are they supposed to be building houses? They are not supposed to be building houses. They are supposed to be making policies, law. They are supposed to be regulating the system. They are supposed to be sure that things are working well. But now that the turn of
perhaps the developers are lacking. That's why the ministry has to step in.
No.
But let's talk about the fact that in spite of the fact that many civil and public servants don't have their own homes, there are many abandoned housing projects. Why do we have that? And what is being done to open them up? People want to live in them.
There are a lot of factors responsible for abandoned houses. Some call it unoccupied houses. When you talk of unoccupied houses, the property could be a property of one of your staff here who are stealing a lot of money.
Very unlikely. We have honest, hardworking, and diligent people here. I would not like you to choke. Please be careful.
Right. So it could be one of the civil servants who have taken some money somewhere and use that one to tie the money down. That could be one. Another way is somebody who built the house came up with a big price because the money is spent to it is much. So these are the factors. As when you go to my Tama, you see a Megad. The Oga is in Asokoro. Then when you also go down to another area, you see the same man owning a house. You get what I'm saying? There's no way. In fact, in the recent time, let me tell you what, they even put signboard there that is for sale. But when you get there, the price they will give to you, you will run either to rent or to sell. The facts are the major factors.
But there's nothing wrong with one person owning 2 homes if you can afford it.
I don't think that's any. I have not seen a law in the Federal Republic. I'm a lawyer. I've not seen a law that says you are not entitled to own 2 properties. But we are saying those houses are unoccupied, abandoned for various reasons. And we have said at various times that the government should come up with a policy against it. Because some people cannot go and be living in Massacre, some people cannot go and be at the extreme part of Orile Agege in Lagos, while some people are keeping houses in Maitama in the city. That is the fact. If you come up with a way to make money from that, come up with a property tax. But then they're paying heavy bill every month or every year. They will do something about it. And that will increase the supply in the housing stock.
But let's talk about the developers now. Because in spite of all our talk, we're going forward, we're getting more experienced with spreading information, but we're not getting the results that information ought to make possible. So who is supposed to provide affordable housing for civil servants who have worked assiduously for over 20, 25, 30 years, and many even retire without owning their own homes? So you are talking, who is doing the building?
The developer is a businessman. The government is the one that's supposed to create enabling environment and regulation for that developer. If the government do its part, the developer will see that. That is the power of the government. There used to be a fish program. What killed fish program? Is it still alive? We all sat down and said this is the number of houses, the prices of houses we are going to build. So when they got to the market, the prices changed. When they got to the issue of land, the thing changed. So you see that developer is a businessman. All that the government need to do is to create an enabling environment. When you create an enabling environment, that gives you the audacity to control them. This is what you want, but you don't go and control what does not belong to you.
Okay.
That is the problem.
Okay.
So a civil servant.
That's the fine note. You don't go and control what does not belong to you. And when you don't create an environment for them to work, then we have chaos. But we'll come back. A break beckons. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Now we are back. We're reading your messages. Let me just take one so that Mr. Adebayo can summarize with that. It says government can do more to provide housing for Nigerians despite the resource at our disposal. Many citizens of Nigeria are unable to own their own homes throughout their lifetime, especially if they are honest citizens of Nigeria. This is coming from Abia State, Chika Unorom Umukabia. Final words.
I'm here in NTA, the government station, and I want to use this opportunity to draw the attention of the government, those in power, to the need to provide affordable housing to the workers. What do you want a young man who is 26 years old and the father has served 24 years old in the civil service when the father does not have a place to stay? Do you think such a guy will want to work for government, having seen his father being a honest man? By providing housing, we can bring all the ideas of honesty. There's no hope. The young men are going to banditry. If you are giving them a house, if you are giving some of them a house, we can use that one to track them. Because housing creates jobs. When somebody is working in the farm, is working in the street, by the time you work, you are tired, you not go on the road. So that is one of the advantages of housing. So government can use housing to create jobs. Some government can use housing to stop all sorts of criminalities in the country. So I'm appealing to the government to see how they can use housing as a tool. When a civil servant knows that after working for a period of time, he's going to get a house of his own. If it's just a 2-bedroom, there's no way the civil servant will not be hardworking. There's no way the civil servant will want to steal. It is when they have no hope that some of them go into all this kind of criminality.
Nefarious activities.
I want to beg
we need to rest on that note.
I want to beg the government, let's do more Let's do more. Let's do more to reward our workers. Let's do more in the area of housing. Let's do more in the area of mortgage provision so that people, every Nigerian, can have access to a decent house.
Thank you very much, Festus Adebayo, Executive Director, Housing Development Advocacy Network. Every Nigerian can own a home, and it takes all hands working together assiduously to make this possible. We'll now go to Lagos, where the Lagos Network Center tells us about housing challenges from that part of Nigeria.
As the second in the priority of mass needs after food, shelter is crucial for survival in cases of natural hazards. As such, adequate housing provides the opportunity to live a normal life. However, housing availability and affordability is a great concern to the government, to end users and stakeholders in the housing sector. According to a recent report or statistics, there is a present deficit of over 17 million houses in Nigeria, which requires about 700,000 houses to be built yearly, compared to the less than 100,000 houses being constructed yearly.
If you look at that area, where you don't have to spend so much in terms of doing raft foundation, piling and all that, where you can just do the regular strip foundation that is on stable soil, you find out that land availability in such areas is more restricted. And you now have more availability of land on a highland, especially where you have to now spend a lot on your foundation type.
Lagos, the commercial center of Nigeria, is not exempted, as statistics has also shown that 55% of 80 million houses are inflated by real estate values. Influx of immigrants, lack of planning are responsible for acute housing deficit in the state, especially for low-income earners. It is believed that to increase the supply of housing in Nigeria, there is a need to equally increase demand through availability of funds to the buyers. More statistics has also shown that more than 75% of housing deficit in Lagos are as a result of poor family earnings.
Someone who does not even need a rent home because he knows it's cheaper and is well placed, and some of these things are even spread out based on political influence. So those people will even have access to it more than the civil servants and low-income earners you're talking about.
A typical example is the low-cost housing estate at Ikponri, constructed over 40 years ago, with most of the houses falling apart and surrounded by stagnant water due to lack of maintenance and proper drainage.
The road was higher than where the buildings are. So when it's raining season and the rain starts dropping, since the road is higher than the structure of the building or where the building is located, and there are no drainages on the road again, where the rain enters to the canal, the rain finds itself to us. Most especially we living downstairs, we began experiencing water in our houses.
Though governments at different levels have made concerted efforts at reducing this deficit, these efforts have yielded little results or success. It is said that houses in Nigeria are expensive. As such, the issue of mortgage financing.
There are some houses that you're supposed to put on mortgage it for people, like a civil servant like me. Okay, be paying such amount of money for such years. At least I'll be able to have a house on my head. But this thing is not like that. You will see some houses, they will tell you, in this estate, we have house of 3 bedroom of 31 million. Which civil servant can afford that?
Sources at the Lagos State Ministry of Housing said that the government is working on possible ways to develop an effective and workable housing delivery program that will enable the city achieve the goals of its housing for all. Housing deficit in Nigeria has been a recurring conversation in the past couple of years that requires concerted efforts from all stakeholders for the realization of affordable houses for Nigerians.
I know that oftentimes people have said that we have excellent policies. It is the workability, it is the actuality that sometimes there are gaps, big gaps that create challenges for many people. If everybody doesn't do their work well, it's going to affect the result. So, from the making of the policies, to the actualization, to the citizens of the country, to those who are building, any hand that drops, when you drop the buck, is going to affect the result and even the projection first. That means more Nigerians will not be able to actualize the dream of owning their homes while they live. And that's not what we want, is it? Now let's come back to Abuja, where from NTA Abuja, we're looking at challenges in housing.
There are deep beliefs that houses in Nigeria are expensive to put up. Hence, the plans and attempts by successive governments to develop low-cost houses is a difficult task. Most well-constructed houses are averagely sold for a minimum of 500 million naira in the Federal Capital Territory. This then leads to the questions: is there a housing policy or scheme put in place by the Federal Capital Territory Administration for low-income earners and civil servants? How affordable and accessible are these houses?
People are saying there are investments in housing and whatever that can easily be accessed by civil servants, but in reality, it is not so.
Someone on level 10, how much is the salary? About 100,000 plus, about 100,000. Now wants to go and get a one-bedroom, just one-bedroom apartment. Do you know how much it goes for? It depends on the area. Even as far as Gwagwalada, if you want to buy a one-bedroom flat, you cannot see it less than 3.5 or 4 million. That's on the average.
There's a prohibition for the civil servant to get house easily, more especially is this house loan and this FHA that they remove for on salary for the housing. They are deducting up to now, but we have not had any civil servant that say you own your own house up to now.
Now, if you're talking about the house, you're talking about the product. Affordability is also now tied to your incomes. All right? So the first question will be, how much does it cost you to build a normal house, a livable house, okay, for what you might be able to call your low-income earners? You can't solve it except you now look at the cost of construction. And you can't solve it except to localize, those construction materials. Because as long as you're importing them, so long are you going to be spending foreign exchange. If you do not reduce the cost of building material.
Majority believe that we need more cash flow and investment in housing development and more mortgage facilities with an average of 20 to 25 years tenure at the rate of 6% per annum.
Like level 1 to 6 or 3 to 6, they give about 1 million naira. Then those from level 7 and above, they give 2.3 points. But this amount cannot even build your house inside Abuja. But for the assessment of the houses, it's terrible.
Contractors tell you they gave me a contract for housing, for this or that. I want to go and assess the loan. It is always not possible. They will create so many bottlenecks that will make it impossible for you to access the fund.
If you're not earning what you call a living wage, how are you able to now aggregate how the person can even qualify for mortgage? And if a single bedroom is costing you probably 5 million or 2 million even, and the person is supposed to be spending 30% of his annual income as mortgage, and then you have a mortgage program. I don't see anyone that has run more than 5 years in Nigeria. I don't know if I ones that run longer than that, like what you have in outside the country, okay, where you now have mortgages running for about 10, 15, 20 years.
However, the Central Bank of Nigeria has created a fund in support of housing construction, while various state governments are undertaking rent-to-own schemes to provide housing for low-income earners and civil servants.
Many thanks, Ore Erunsa. She's been telling us about the housing challenge in the Federal Capital Territory. And we know that there are many developers out there who say they want to make it possible for many as possible, who are working legitimately and who have a deep need to own their own homes. They say they want to make it possible. So now we have the information. The developers are there. The civil and public servants are also on this side. Is the bridging of the gap now. That's what we're looking, that's the thrust of the matter. But while we think on it and we get your responses to our packages as they unfold, we'll touch down in Ibadan, where they say how possible it is for low-income earners to own their homes. Is it happening at all? Let's find out.
One of the basic responsibilities of any responsive government is the provision of basic amenities like good roads, affordable housing, provision of food, and good standard of living for its citizenry. Based on the latest projections by the United Nations data, Nigeria is currently with a population of 210,593,412 inhabitants. With this growing population, Nigeria is faced with the challenge of deficits in the housing sector to cater for the people. Provision of adequate and quality housing units is one of the roles of any government, since housing is one of the human fundamental needs.
It's obvious we do not have enough housing infrastructure in Nigeria, and it's a major problem. In fact, most of the challenges that we are having, that is facing the country now, emanated from the fact that people are not well accommodated. Our orientation from home does not evolve from convenience. They are coming out of inconvenience, from adjustment, from managing, resources that are not available.
The housing and construction sector, if properly administered, has the capacity to produce a tremendous multiplier effect on the broader economy of any nation through forward linkage to the financial markets and backward linkage to land, building materials, furniture, and labor markets.
We are clamoring for the establishment of what we call the Oyo State Building Control Agency, which His Excellency Governor Seyi Makinde has recently directed the Honorable Commissioner for Public Works and Housing, including the Honorable Commissioner, Ministry of Lands and Urban Development, and all other relevant government agencies and parastatals, including the other built environment professionals, the civil engineering professionals, the structural, the quantity surveyors, the town planners. All of us are now coming together. As I'm talking to you now, there is a high-powered meeting of these government functionaries and the relevant agencies meeting to strategically put heads together in ensuring that there are quality buildings that are being produced in Oyo State.
Nigeria has embarked on several housing policies in order to provide adequate housing for the teeming population. However, in the housing sector, there is an acute problem of housing availability, accessibility, and affordability without corresponding actions to match the demand. What is the state government's housing policy in Oyo State?
In Oyo State in particular, what we do is that we map out some GRAs for people to really have good housing arrangement for themselves at a very low cost and make it so affordable to the people. And not only that, we give them some sort of housing loan, particularly the civil servants on Oyo State. They have housing loan board that is domiciled in my ministry here.
The Federal Mortgage Bank in Nigeria is responsible for the provision of mortgages to low-income earners through the National Housing Trust Fund. How accessible are mortgage funds for civil servants, and how affordable are the houses to them?
When the government say low-cost houses, is it low as they call it? No. Because in those days, there's a low-cost houses costing about just 1.2 million for 2 and 3 bedroom. But today, they are saying 20 million, 30 million for a 3-bedroom apartment. It is not done.
It's difficult, very difficult to access loans. Even those who are working in the who are in the workforce of the federal government, to get the loan is very difficult for them because they consider several factors before obtaining a loan. How can I obtain a loan that will be deducted from my salary at an interest rate that is not palatable?
It is opined that if the private sector can join hands with the government at both the federal and state level, the challenges of housing deficit will be a thing of the past.
We've just heard from Ibadan. They said the journey of 1,000 miles starts with one step. We do understand that by bringing the discussion about housing for all to the fore, we open the awareness and spread what little we're able to bring up to the nooks and crannies of Nigeria. At least have the knowledge, and then you can begin to make positive steps. We're going to Kaduna now to know more about housing and the people.
Shelter is one of the physiological needs of man. This is why the provision of housing for all can never be overemphasized. Kaduna State is not left out in trying to provide housing for the low-income earners and civil servants who do not find it easy in our society to secure a decent accommodation. How accessible is the housing provided by the state government in conjunction with mortgage banks and private developers?
With the help of our developers, it took me almost 2 years. Even now, I'm not yet done with the process. The price of the house, it depends on the developers, you understand. Like our developers, they try as much as possible to make it very simple and very affordable for us, you understand. The price is somehow good, but the process is what is making it difficult.
If you look at this post-COVID era, cost of production has gone up, cost of building material has gone up, because they even told us that they were to review their prices. The houses we priced and bought before the COVID, after the COVID, they reviewed their prices. There was a difference of about 1-2 million naira like that the cost of production has gone up. So to me, it's affordable because in a normal day, I wouldn't have gathered money like that to start building house.
If you go to Million City, the houses there, they are not enough to occupy the workers in Kaduna State. We have many ministries, many organizations. Do you get it? So if that place can be open, just like last week we had a program on this mortgage of 18, and they told us that they alliance with the state government are going to build more houses of 6,000 plus. If they can do that in Rigasa and other places, I think that will ease the stress the workers are facing in Kaduna State.
A lot of housing projects are ongoing in Kaduna State in making sure all are housed in the shortest time possible.
There was a strategic plan to increase the housing stock in the state, but mainly to be private sector driven. So in that light, we have been pursuing our goal in that regard. We have so many investors or partners who have come to Kaduna State to go into affordable housing. And these housing projects are scattered across the states, but mainly within Kaduna Metropolis and at various levels of completion. But with the second coming of Malam Nasir El-Rufai, the governor of Kaduna State, he has placed a lot of emphasis on housing to the extent that we now have a ministry dedicated to housing matters. That's my ministry, Ministry of Housing and Urban Development. And he did that because he also wanted to place a lot of emphasis on the vulnerable group, because the government now is determined to get involved in producing housing for this particular group. So what we're doing now is that we're in the process of embarking upon the provision of social housing for the vulnerable, that's the low-income group in the state.
The effort the government is putting in place to provide housing for all is imperative, that in the shortest time possible, all will have a place of their own, even the most vulnerable in Kaduna State.
I understand. Many thanks, NTA Kaduna. We're delving deeper we're getting information. They say information is key. When you have the information, then you know what needs to be done. But it's just easy to know that if everyone wants things to work in Nigeria, we'll know we'll go faster when we are working together, when we listen to each other, when we consider what the next person has to bring to our discussion, when we now put it into planning. We don't stop our talking. That talking must be actualized, and it takes commitment, sacrifice, and purpose. NTA Sokoto, what do you have for us about housing and our people and our friends over there?
The housing deficit problem in Nigeria presents a challenge to its teeming population of over 200 million people. Owning a home for an average civil servant is a challenge.
Even in this area, I learned some of the rent here 250, 350. As a civil servant, if you remove 250, where will you even get 250 or 300,000 per annum?
For low-income earners in Sokoto State, the housing scheme is the most reliable way of owning a home through the use of mortgages funded by their salaries.
We introduced a selection process because if your salary cannot pay the house of about 5 million, it doesn't make sense to include you on the list.
Sokoto State Housing Scheme has made available and disbursed a number of houses in the past few years through different processes.
The owner-occupier I have mentioned. Normally, I think what the state government did was, if you are given that opportunity, you are supposed to pay government in 6 months. Okay?
I think it needs to look at how it can be able to spread the money, maybe by 5 years or 10 years, so that it can be able to alleviate. Looking at the grade level of certain civil servants that are in the houses. For example, if somebody remaining 10 years for him to retire, maybe the money can be split into 10 years, monthly by monthly, or 5 years, or 6 years, or something. But whatever the case, as far as I'm concerned, the government have done, at least it shows some certain kind of magnanimity, kind gesture.
Many of us are not even sure. But for me, actually, I started from the onset. I paid my 50,000 administrative fees, and when they asked us to remit the 20%, I did. And alhamdulillah, as a result of that policy, I now own a house of my own, housing all members of my family.
Sokoto State is taking its housing deficiency problem seriously and has projects in the works to curb the problem.
State government was involved in different projects. Gidan Salenki is among those projects. It's ongoing, and when it is finished, it will be sold to the civil servants. The criteria upon which the house is going to be allocated to a civil servant. Those criteria are as follows. You know, if you are not having any law, it is restricted to a particular grade level, from level 8 to level 16. If you have enjoyed some loans previously, then those ones who have not enjoyed will have upper hand than somebody who has a loan.
The Sokoto State government follows a strategic process that ensures the affordability of the homes built.
Government is not fully involved 100%. It has brought somebody who has money, who want to invest, and he is going to invest those money to get houses constructed. When those houses are constructed, the company will charge certain prices on them, and then the state government will provide off-takers who will buy those houses, and then through the salary, the money is going to be deducted and transferred to the account of the ministry of the company.
The housing deficit problem needs to be given the priority it deserves, for shelter is an important human and basic need.
We have been told that when you prioritize something, you have a bigger chance of getting it actualized. Prioritize housing, get all the information that you desire, look for people with integrity to work and save with, and let's see how far you go. You are watching Weekend Deal. We'll take a break. We'll be back. I want to just take this message because I gathered that Tony Odo did not watch all our packages. He tells us that most of the respondents for our features were government appointees. That is not true, Tony. You didn't start our package, obviously, from the top, where we talked to everyone, even those who want homes, and got a balanced opinion from all sides of the divide. But he's saying that government ought to find a way to bring down the cost of building materials and to champion the concepts of alternative housing like we have brought forward, like Cecil did on our package today. We continue our conversation tomorrow on Weekend Deal, bright and early at 7. And we ask you to join us again. Thank you for participating actively. We have your messages. They've been coming in from the start up till now. We'll take many more tomorrow. Have a great day. Keep watching the NTA. Bye-bye.